Good evening, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Welcome to Growers Live. I'm Josh Satin, and this is kicking off the first of the Growers Live series. We're back, and we're going to be doing this every 2 weeks, and I am super excited. We have Rebecca Morse tonight. She's from Osborne Quality Seeds, a friend of mine, colleague, someone I can call and ask questions to. You know, she's awesome. I can't say enough. And if any of you guys have ever met Rebecca or have interacted with her before, I've heard the same thing from so many people. So I'm really happy to have her on. Just a couple of announcements before we get started. As I said, we'll be doing this every 2 weeks, Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern. In 2 weeks, August 4th, we'll have Casey Oswinch, maybe Tori, I'm not sure, of Honey Tree Farm. And then on August 18th, we'll have Troy Hinkey from Living Roots Compost, who is an amazing person and just a wealth of knowledge. So those are the next two coming up, and I really look forward to those. I think that's basically all the announcements I have tonight. So let me get Rebecca in here, and we can start asking questions. And well, let's do that. Rebecca, good evening.
How you doing?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good, I'm good.
All right. Welcome to Growers Live. I think for everyone watching and listening, I think what we'll do, like normal, we will, we'll chat for a little bit, and then we will open it up for questions after. We'll chat for a little bit, then we'll do the Patreon questions, and then we'll open up for questions from YouTube. So, welcome everybody. Make sure you guys let me know where you guys are from in the comments. And put some questions in there. We'll get to them, and I'll let Rebecca introduce herself. So, yeah, Rebecca, tell me what you do and where you are and all of those sorts of things.
Well, I'm Rebecca, and I'm out here in Washington State. I work for Osborne Quality Seeds. We are north of Seattle, between Seattle and Vancouver, BC. I've been with Osborne for a decade. Before that, I had a small farm of my own. I had about an acre market farm in rural Washington. Started working with Osborne. I was a customer, and I started working seasonally in my off season in the winters back in 2010, and loved it so much I stuck around, and kind of my job kept growing here. Went from order processing to field trial manager to sales. Product development and sales is where I have stuck. So gave up farming in 2014 to work here full time.
So what was the reason for giving up farming, or what were the reasons, I should say?
Hard. I felt like I was growing more in this position. I felt like I had more to offer. Felt like I was learning a lot, and I liked my interactions with farmers. I liked finding new varieties and thinking of farmers in particular and getting new varieties out to them. And I liked the connections. I got to manage the trial field my first couple of years here. So it was an easier transition. I went from farming to growing, a different focus on finding new varieties rather than getting them to market. But it felt like a comfortable, exciting way to transition from farming on my own. Yeah, I found it really exciting, and I was finding in the summertime, it was getting harder and harder to go back to my own farm because I liked what I was doing here.
Okay. And so for a while you were mainly doing sales, right? But that's sort of shifted a little bit.
Well, sales goes hand in hand with product development, so I'm in the trial fields. I'm pulling varieties together for our trials and planting them and evaluating them. So product development and sales go hand in hand. I kind of think of sales I don't think of myself as a salesperson. I'm not trying to sell things to people that they don't need. I'm trying to connect with growers and see what they need and find new varieties. So I think of our catalog too. It's expanding our catalog and finding varieties for growers around the country. So what I do is think of our whole product selection. So not just selling seeds, finding seeds. Yeah.
Cool. And I know that you have, and obviously as of recently it's changed obviously with COVID, but you've traveled a lot around the country and met with farmers in all of different areas. And I know that when you came to visit me last summer, you were like, there were so many things you were like, I don't get this. This is crazy. Like, growing in the South is weird. So I think for a lot of people when they order seeds, they don't think much about regionality or those sorts of things. But you've made such an effort to connect with farmers and sort of learn what works for them and what doesn't. How's that process been? Is that just like evolving and just complicated?
Oh yeah, it's both. It's exciting, but I can only learn about growing in other regions by visiting growers and having the conversations. I feel the same way even here in Washington still. Every grower is different, has different needs. Everyone has their own microclimate and their own soil and their own vision for what they want their produce to look like. But traveling has been really exciting for me, and it's been a little challenging since March, staying put. I think I was traveling every single week for the winter, getting to go to conferences and visiting growers. And last summer I had about 4 trips, Southeast, Northeast, Midwest. And I've created these relationships, and I miss the farmers that have become my friends, and I miss walking fields. But, we've been able to transition to a lot of texts and calls and emails. But yeah, there's lots to learn. There's, walk in a field, asking growers what's working, what doesn't work, and hearing what they need. It's to me the best part of the job. Finding new varieties and making connections is great.
Yeah, I know for me, when I go to visit other farms, it's always the best part is meeting the farmers and getting to know them and learning what they're up to and how they think and stuff. And I know that I don't know. That's like when I go visit farms, that's what I always like. I leave, I'm like, man, that farmer was super cool. I learned so much from them, or just a really great person. So what's exciting you right now? I know you mentioned to me that you've been doing more of the field trial stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, just this morning, my passion is the greens. You and I have talked about greens a lot. So this morning I went out there and I evaluated some baby leaf greens, and, I found it was about I think it's a 27 variety trial, and I already found like 4 or 5 new varieties that I got really excited about. And I just sat there and I took a lot of pictures, and I wrote some notes, and I just admired them. So I found some new greens that are really exciting. But we're looking at a lot of cucumbers, tomatoes. We're doing a great sunflower trial this year I'm pretty excited about. And we have a new product development field manager that's been great to work with. And so we're evolving our own operations and methods. But yeah.
So when I'm going to ask you a simple question here. Maybe it's not simple, I don't know. But when you're evaluating, let's say, greens, like what are you looking for? Is it just like how it's performing, yield, the way it looks, the way it tastes? Like, what's the sort of process there? I'm just curious.
I'm looking at speed and vigor, because most green growers want their greens to be fairly fast to size up. I'm looking for color and weight, something unusual, a little bit different leaf shape. Purple is great. The more purple I can find, purple stems, purple leaf, back of leaf. But speed is really important, and something that holds up post-harvest. When you're spinning your greens or even bunching your greens and putting it on a market table, you want it to hold up. So the leaf needs to be thick enough. So color, weight, vigor, flavor. So.
Okay. And if you guys don't know about Osborne, I mean, their seeds are incredible if you've never tried them. They also have the most beautiful catalog, hands down. I mean, hands down, Rebecca. It's always amazing. Every time I get it, I'm like, this is amazing. And everything I've gotten from you guys has been incredible. I really have gotten a lot of stuff. And I think one of the best things after meeting you was that, you should be in touch with your seed producer, because they can really tell you the types of seeds that will work for you, because otherwise you're just picking blindly in terms of variety. Yeah. So I really value that relationship, Rebecca, when I call you or text you and say, hey, what of these will work? And you're like, this one's the one you need. So is that a big part of can you talk on that a little bit, just like in relationships with farmers and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And just as important as me coming up with varieties I think a grower is going to like, it's a grower telling me what works and what doesn't work. I mean, that's how we learn, and that's how we figure out how to grow our catalog. What are we missing, or what do we need more of, or what is kind of passé and nobody really wants anymore. When we put new varieties in the catalog, our catalog comes out in November every year, and there are varieties that we know for sure are going to be fantastic. And then there's others that we kind of go out on a limb. We are really excited. And we have been putting trials out around the country, not just in the Pacific Northwest. but you really got to get it out into growers' field. So it's that first year and then maybe the second year of a new variety in the catalog, seeing how it performs. Growers need to buy it and we need that feedback. And there's been some fantastic surprises. There's purple moon cauliflower has worked everywhere we have put it. Burgundy purple sprouting broccoli has been working everywhere it's been going in. And so those are the great, it's just the confirmation we have a good variety, hearing that it's adaptable. We need the feedback from growers. So when I talk to somebody on the phone, I typically, if they've been ordering from us before, I typically look at their order history, and there'll be a couple varieties I'll want to know, how does this perform for you in Texas? I want that information, and I try and take a lot of notes. I have a lot of notebooks and try to get all that information in places I'm going to see it again. But it's really helpful to have feedback. So I always ask people to ask me questions, but also to give me feedback, the good and the bad. So
you probably ask me more questions than I ask you when I talk to you. Just
it's
which is awesome.
This is how we do it. We're not trying to sell things that people don't want. We want to have a catalog full of varieties that are going to find a home and make growers really happy and successful.
And I'm really happy to also share. I share a lot online with everything that's working and not working for me. But if I can give you guys feedback that helps you decide when someone in, let's say, South Carolina or Tennessee or Georgia is like, hey, and you're like, oh, I just talked to a farmer that's growing this and it's doing well, or this isn't doing, that information's gold. Especially if you're just starting off in market gardening or farming and you don't know what varieties to pick. And that, I think that relationship with seed companies is just super, super cool.
Yeah. It's gold for us too. We survive here to help you, and we can't do this without you. So.
And likewise, we need seeds. So it's symbiotic, right? All right, so let's get into a couple questions here. So just so you guys know, if you're new to Growers Live, we the Patreon account for no-till growers, if you guys go to patreon.com/farmerjesse, you can sign up for as little as $2 a month, and you guys can go on there and ask questions for the guests ahead of time, and then we will get into the questions from the live chat here. So let's get into those Patreon questions. Some of these are similar, so I'll try to combine a couple of these because they kind of hit on the same topics. So C-Mac Small and Patrick Smith were sort of asking about seed shortages and stuff like that, especially with the pandemic. And I know that talking to other seed companies, they were either short or just hard to put orders out in the spring. So can you talk a little bit on that and what you think might be for next year?
Yeah, I think a lot of those shortages just came because it was so unexpected. We do a lot of our booking for seed purchases is happening a year ahead of time. We booked seed for this coming year back in April and May, and nobody was anticipating, what happened. We had us and every other seed company out there had a lot of home gardeners wanting to plant their first garden ever, so a lot more business than any of us expected. So that's where a lot of the shortages came from. We really haven't been hearing about any actual seed shortages, nothing out of the ordinary. There's always some issues with some organic crops. Organic beet seed was very hard to get this year, and that's pretty typical. Every year there are those crops that are, especially with the organic production, a little bit harder to come by, but there has not been concern. We did up all our we all are looking ahead to the possibility of increased interest this coming year, and have made some decisions in purchasing to accommodate that. But that's really why we all got hit so hard. It was so unexpected, and then in addition to just needing to keep everybody safe, I went home and worked remotely for a month, and a lot of other of my coworkers did the same. And in the warehouse, needing to give everybody enough space to be safe, it got slowed down quite a bit. And then shipping was really slow. So we have not seen any information that causes us to be concerned about seed shortages. And we've all learned a lot from this. I say we all, all of the seed companies have learned a lot about how to manage something like this. It's just, we all have in our own, lives and businesses. It was unexpected, and we're adapting to this. But hopefully it'll go smoother this coming year where we can all get seed out a little bit faster, more efficiently.
Cool. So it wasn't an actual seed shortage. It was more like just you guys didn't have the right quantity for the sales that were
Yeah,
coming in.
we didn't
Okay.
anticipate. So it was really a lot of home gardeners. And then, farmers adapted really well. And a lot of growers saw, massive increases in CSA sales. And, there was the potential. And so a lot of growers went out on a limb and purchased more seed, whereas the growers selling to restaurants were hit really hard, unfortunately.
So what percentage or roughly like, what's the breakdown of your like commercial growers versus home scale stuff in terms of seed sales?
I don't have an actual number. We're actually trying to get that information.
Okay.
I'd say 85% of our growers are commercial growers, and that's of every scale. Mostly diversified growers, a lot of organic growers. I think of us as sort of the 1 to 50 acre. We're a good fit for diversified growers. So there are some home gardeners in there. We don't sell actual packets. All of our seed comes in resealable foils. We have minimum quantities for some crops that are a little higher than some small growers are comfortable with, or some home gardeners are comfortable with. But small growers, I think are pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, the packages are very nice. I have to say they're like heavy duty. They have like do they have like a little Ziploc on the top too?
They do. They're resealable. Yep.
Okay, cool. And so maybe for home gardeners, if they want to go in with a couple neighbors, maybe that's the way. If the minimum, just place an order in the springtime and do
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
But our seed is all for, because we sell to commercial growers, we have to have high quality seed with a higher germination than you might find in a packet sales in a store. We got a lot of people calling us because there was no seed in stores. None of those rack sales. The seeds were gone. They were just obliterated really quickly, and so we had a lot of calls. But the higher germination rate and the resealable foils means most crops the seed will last a couple of years just fine.
All right, so I got one more question to up on this. I know a lot of farmers, like obviously restaurants basically closed down, that sort of dried up. A lot of farmers markets even shut down. So I know a lot of farmers are switching to the CSA model. Did you see a shift in the types of seeds people were buying? Because I know like I was growing like 4 things last year, but if I was doing a CSA, I would have to grow more varieties. So
Yeah.
did you see like certain things that like you'd never think of selling out, like just disappeared?
No, it's a lot of growers. So we've been seeing this shift from CSAs to restaurants. And then, everyone had to do a 180 this year and go back to the CSA model and add CSA. So growers that weren't quite as diversified as the CSA really requires did have to add some more varieties. More growers growing a bit of corn this year that typically don't sell any corn. There wasn't a difference in the crops that we sold, but we did see some growers really needing to growers that had enjoyed having a few less crops needing to go back to that really diverse selection again.
Okay. All right, so let's get on to another question. Sally Pietra Fitta, sorry if I messed that up, is asking about seed saving for flowers. And I'll just read this to you. Using zinnias as an example, is it possible for growers on a small scale to select the most pastel shades from a mix, bag them, pollinate manually, and save the seed to get a mix for the next season? Is that like possible to like pick?
I'm not going to be able to answer that. I wish I could answer that.
All right, no worries.
I'm a vegetable grower that is fascinated with flowers and decided it's time for me to learn about flowers, but I know very little.
Okay, fair enough. But I guess the idea there is like you're picking the ones that you like and saving the seeds from those.
Yes. So same idea, I suppose, as vegetables. I just don't want to say anything wrong about flowers in particular if there's something different. But
agreed. People ask me about flowers all the time. I'm like, man, I grow veggies. I love flowers, but all right, cool. So Mike Dillon is asking about long-term seed storage. Can you vac pack them, and any other long storage tips would be cool. So,
yeah, it really does depend on crops, but typically, around 40 degrees, and you gotta, I'm afraid again to misspeak because there's good information online about the percent humidity that you need. Different crops have different length of time that they are viable. Of course, you want to get moisture out and you want to start with seed that already has a high germination rate. But keeping the moisture out is really important, and keeping the temperature low enough. Certain crops like tomatoes, peppers, most brassica seeds, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower can last years, years. Things like onions, um, only a couple, and pelleted seeds in particular, we 1 year. And if a seed has been primed, 1 year.
Okay, I've seen a lot of that experience. I mean, I've heard that about pelleted seed. Like, I had a little left over in the fall. I tried in the spring, and the germination rate just tanks.
Yeah,
That's good to know about brassicas. I know I've like grabbed bags of kale, and it's killer the next year. So
yeah.
this is
Oh, yeah. It could be years.
okay. Rio Kevin is asking, and this is sort of what we're just talking about now. Yeah, you just mentioned this. He was asking like what sort of seeds do well and don't from year to year, which you just talked about.
Yeah, we actually have a list inside the catalog of how many years seeds. It's a pretty general because, of course, it depends too. If you start with seed that has a lower germination rate, it's not going to last quite as many years. It's not going to be as vigorous because there's a germination rate and then there's vigor that can fall. For some seed, it can fall fairly suddenly. So you might have, 5 years of something of a seed being at a 90%, and then all of a sudden it falls down to a 70. So, but most crops, it's going to be years, and you can flip into the catalog and you can find it online, and you can see our chart of viability. Lots of good information online. Parsnips, no, about a year.
Okay, good to know.
They're about the fastest. Most flower seed also doesn't hold as well.
Okay.
I do
Okay,
know
cool.
that.
And the other question here was sort of about, is production boosted for next year just with high demand and stuff, but you kind of already talked about that. So don't cause any panic. Don't like buy all the seeds now for next year. And
No, don't.
okay. I mean, these are fair questions. I mean, I know a lot of people,
Absolutely.
went to go buy seeds this spring and then they're out of things they need, or so people, want to make sure they get what they need for next year.
Yeah, it was seeds and toilet paper. They were like just cleaned out of the stores.
And hand
I mean,
sanitizer.
really exciting that people want to grow. It's a big question. The home gardeners that tried it for the first time, will they grow again? Don't know yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've gotten a lot of that sort of discussion with people too, and I don't know. I'm hoping that this was a push for people because I mean, we all want more people to grow food. So the more people
Yeah.
growing food, the better. I just hope it's not like, oh, this is cool this year and next year, Yeah, we hope that they're still growing food next year. So can we get into so W Fields, a Patreon member, is asking about seed saving, and I know that just can you talk a little bit about some basics of seed saving, just like really simple, maybe like pick a couple crops or some techniques that people might be able to use, just if they want to try it at home or for the first time kind of thing.
And again, I'm not going to be able to speak too much of it, but the first most important thing is you're saving open pollinated varieties. So that is the first thing to think about, because saving a hybrid, you're not going to get the same variety. It's not going to be true to seed. So an open pollinated seed is open pollinated variety is what you're going to be saving. The easiest crops are beans and peas, squash, large seeded crops. There's a lot of information out there. I'm not the one that has a lot of information about seed saving, so I'm not sure how much more I can say.
So maybe start with some seeds like obviously if you're saving seeds from a pepper or squash, like you already have the seeds essentially because you took the fruit off.
Yes, exactly. Peppers are
Right.
easy, but
Right.
again, just to be an open pollinated variety, and then you can have some fun and plant it out, and you grow out another crop, and you can save the ones that have the attributes that you like, and keep refining.
Yeah, like that's the whole point of like seed saving essentially, is that you pick the ones that work the best
Yes.
in your environment and you
Yep.
reproduce those. And is it
Yes.
really, yeah, so just that's a really obvious one that maybe some people don't, that some people overlook, is like the open pollinated versus hybrid, because
Yes.
obviously that's not
I
going
have
to.
that question. I get that question often. Why
Okay.
doesn't it look like that way? Yes, it needs to be an open pollinated variety. And yes, there's some crops that take 2 years to form seed. So yes, peppers is a great one. Tomatoes is fairly easy too. You just need to be able to dry it down. And getting the moisture out is really important. You can't store
Okay.
a seed that is not dry.
Are there any like simple things you can do to get the moisture out of seeds after you harvest them? Fans? I don't know. I don't stage seeds. I just buy them from people that are really good at it.
Yeah, Josh, you're asking me questions of things that are not my expertise,
All
and
right.
I'm sorry, people that are asking questions that
No,
I
you're
can't.
good. You're good. All right. I got a good question for you, Rebecca, here.
It's,
So yeah, yeah. I think that that's actually something that's fair to talk about, because people see me all the time and they're like, "Oh, Josh, you must know about this and that." I'm like, I grow certain crops in certain scale, and like I do my best, but when I don't know something, I'm just like, I don't know. And I'm just like, oh, Rebecca's on. She's going to talk about seeds. Let's ask her all the seed saving questions. Just kidding. All right. So Thomas Eliason is asking, can Rebecca speak to the marketing of new greens? Does she put it out in the catalog, or do they advertise those new greens, and how does she get it into growers' fields? So some of the stuff we were sort of talking about
that's a
before.
great question. See, this is stuff that I know about and excited about. I mean, I just first have to say, I find greens exciting because they're so versatile. There's so many different growers that can utilize greens. There's the micro growers, the true sprout growers, but the microgreen growers, and then you've got salad production. You can bunch your greens, and then you can keep cutting them. So to me, there's growers that use greens individually and growers that are creating salads, and I think about greens mostly for that. You have all these varieties and you can make up your own mix. Um, and I just find it really exciting having so many options and how to market them. It's a really good question. I mean, certain greens are better suited for bunching than others. Certain greens shine at a certain stage better than others. Let me think. Growers are using clamshells. They're doing individual greens. Others are bunching, and others are using them in their salad mixes. And you have a lot of options as far as how to sell them, what sort of a container to be selling them in. I think less growers are bunching the Asian greens. They're more frequently used in mixes. I'm looking at greens from that micro, macro, teen, and then full bunch. But I'm most interested in the sort of micro, macro for salad mixes. I find it really exciting that you can create your own mix, and you can have multiple mixes based on the palate of your customers. You can do a spicy mix. You can, I find it really interesting to look for non-brassicas so that you don't have the pest pressure in the mixes. Heat tolerance, disease resistance. So we're looking for color and diversity, but also these attributes that just make it easier to grow greens.
All right.
Bolt tolerance is
So
really
Rebecca,
important.
you just said like the holy grail here. Less insect pressure, heat tolerant greens. Like, what are some examples that you guys recommend right now?
Um, well, you and I looked at those the chicories, the baby leaf chicories. Those are
Yep.
pretty fun. I have a somewhat I have something really exciting, but I'm not completely ready to share. But it's interesting spinach greens that are really exciting, and it's in the spinach family. I think it's gonna rock everybody's world. Not quite ready to reveal yet, but very
All right.
soon.
Well, send me some later. I won't say
I
anything.
will. I will. I just asked for another bag of it. I see something like that doesn't have the pest pressure. It tastes good and it looks really good, and I find it really exciting because yes, greens that don't get that tons of flea beetle holes and you don't have to put remay on them. It's great in my book. I've got some new amaranths and darker bull's blood beets that I'm looking at right now that are really nice. So.
Yeah, I think that's the key for us in the South is like obviously brassicas grow crazy fast. I mean, we did some baby kale and I think it was ready in like 18 days direct seeded or something. I mean, it's just so fast, but I mean the bugs come in really quickly too. So yeah, that's cool that there's a couple options and you guys are trying to figure that out. And yeah, that's super cool. I can't wait to hear more about that stuff. I think Thomas was kind of asking about. Oh, was it Thomas? Yeah, it was asking about how you guys market them, not like how we should market them, but
Oh, how we market. I'm sorry.
yeah. No, it's all right.
I'm not sure if I totally understand the question.
So I think it's kind of like, you know, when you have a new green that you are working on, like when do you start marketing it? When do you put it for sale?
Okay.
That kind of thing.
So our catalog comes out in November, and we know that a lot of growers, both in colder regions, are planting in the fall in their winter tunnels, and then in hotter regions, you know, they're starting up again in August and planting again. And so there are a lot of varieties that we don't introduce until they go into our into the November catalog in the fall for the next season. But then there's varieties like greens that I'm kind of in a hurry to get out there. And so we typically put them on Instagram and Facebook, and then we'll put out emails that'll have, if you're on our email list, we put emails out every week. And so we try to have a focus, and that's where we'll highlight some new varieties, because there's a lot of varieties that we offer after the catalog comes out and before the catalog comes out. So social media and our emails. So if you get on our email list, you'll get those. And then we have a new spot on our catalog, a button when you get on our catalog page. I'm sorry, website. I meant website. I'm looking at my catalog here. My Osborne catalog. But yeah, social media. So we will be introducing. We've already, you know, as soon as I see something in the field, or, you know, any of our staff sees something in the field that we're really excited about, we quickly go to Christina, our purchaser, and ask her to inquire as to availability and how fast we can get it, because there's things we don't want to wait until November, December to bring in. We think that people will, that growers will really enjoy looking at them sooner and putting them in their farm.
Okay, so besides the super secret spinach that we can't be talking about right now, what are some other greens that you're excited about that either like have been kicking butt in the field, or just they're new and upcoming that people should keep their eye on?
There's some, you know, sometimes I wonder, you know, what can I do to beef up a description or a picture to draw some attention? I often, you know, we'll get some varieties in with growers that I think are going to be interested in, and I love when then they purchase it again and like, yes, it worked. There's a Mizuna pak choi cross called KN101569. Easy for me to remember because it's been years, but probably very hard for growers to remember. But it's a fantastic, it has the vigor of Mizuna. It's a broader leaf and thicker because it's got the pak choi. So greens like that, I feel like they're these sleepers in the catalog that I wish more people would try. There is a passion, it's called Passion, a variegated amaranth that I loved because it can take heat really well. You can sell it at all stages. It's a green amaranth with a like really vibrant magenta center. And it grows, you know, you can harvest it at about 2 inches and you can harvest it at 18 inches. And things like that, I feel like will really, they're unique. They add color to salads. That's another non-brassica green that you can put in a salad mix or bunch. So I feel like I need to flip through my catalog to see.
Okay. What about lettuces? Like what's been standing out lately for people? I know, like for years it was like all about Salanova. Like what's going on now with lettuce?
I love the green little gems. You know, I feel like you can have 5-6 varieties and every grower has a different favorite. And I love that, you know, a little more Savoy, a little bit more open, a little bit taller and more upright. And so right now, I think we have 5. I did see a new one that I'm very interested in. And, you know, we want to see one, of course, that it grows well. You know, it's something, a good variety is a grower is going to be successful with it, right? That's what makes a good variety, and their customers are going to like it. But when we grow them in the field and they just look fantastic. They're vigorous and they're vibrant looking, and then they harvest really well. They hold up really well when we, don't have a lot of leaves falling off, and then um, you have good weight to them. And then we cut them open, and they're really dense in the center with that nice yellow sort of buttery center and the crisp ribs on the outside. So I'm really excited about Little Gems. I feel like every year we look at new varieties, and it's always something to be excited and something for every grower. And Little Gems are really popular. You're looking at at least 2 to 3 weeks faster than a full head of lettuce. And you can mix reds and greens if you have a CSA or a market. Or I know growers were selling boxes of different Little Gems to restaurants. So Little Gems and the mini romaines, I should say.
And those mainly sold as heads or as a cut lettuce?
No, as heads. Though I know a lot of growers that take the smallest true Little Gems and some of the little bit bigger mini romaines, and they'll plant them along with their one cut lettuces, the multi-leaf, easy leaf, Selenova type, and they'll plant them along with those. We call them one cuts because you cut them and you get the same size, shape, and the leaves are the same size and shape. So they'll plant the Little Gems and mini romaines along with those one cut varieties and mix them together for that kind of the added weight of that, kind of a ribby romaine, but a small leaf, and then that center butterhead. So it adds a little bit more diversity and loft and crunch to your salad mix. So full
Cool.
heads and full leaves. Yeah.
Okay, I got to try some Little Gems. I think you tried to talk me to them before, but I was like, no, I got my plan. I got to stick to it. And I got more beds to play with. It's much cooler.
Right.
What's some good heat tolerant lettuces that you guys offer?
The summer crisps are great. Cherokee, that dark red Cherokee is really nice. Hornet is a summer crisp. It's a little bit more open, a little more butter looking, and it's a dark red, is very nice. Fusion, it's a romaine green leaf cross. That when you have some Batavian in there, the summer crisps, they're heavier, they have more crunch, they have what we call structure, meaning, they don't just completely flop when you harvest them. And so that means when you cut them, they hold up better post-harvest, and they hold up really well in the field. So those are some great summer varieties.
All right, I did just start those Hornets that you sent me, so those are in trays. They're a few days old, but yeah, we've been growing the Batavias like Cherokee and Mir and Magenta, and those have been great for us. So yeah, I can speak to that for sure. And they're very different. Yeah, they're a lot heavier leaves. Like they'll have a lot more structure to them. And I know that like when I was giving it to chefs, they like it because they can load it up with dressing and it like stays nice and solid on the plate. It has a lot of loft to it, or whatever. I don't know the chef word. So all right, very cool. I mean, I could probably talk about greens all day. It sounds like that's your thing too. So, so I don't know if you know this, but like any reason, Thomas is asking the same person as before. Why aren't greens from long-standing drought-tolerant crops like amaranth, sweet potatoes, and lamb's quarters more popular? Like
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the answer. I don't know the answer to that. So
I don't know the answer. I think it's a flavor thing. I mean, I love the amaranths because that dark color is so beautiful. They're not a brassica, so that makes them easier to grow. And they're fairly easy to grow. They're not too slow. I think it's a flavor. I think people are used to seeing some of those as weeds, and with the sweet potatoes, I think there's a lot of crops that people don't realize you can eat all of it. It's like people harvesting their turnips and not eating their turnip tops that are delicious too.
Or carrot tops.
Let's reinvigorate, let's open up that market for amaranths and sweet potato leaves and.
Okay. Any tips on powder mildew, or I don't know what crops they're referring to here, but do you offer like different varieties that are more resistant to that?
Yeah, disease-resistant varieties. Yeah, there are a lot of varieties that have powdery mildew resistance. And if you know that that's an issue for you, that's when we talk about the open pollinated and the hybrids and making the appropriate choice for you. But disease resistance, if you can't grow a crop because of a particular disease, finding a variety with the disease resistance, and they're out there. There's a lot out there, so it's definitely important. Where you've got humidity, you've got powdery mildew and downy mildew.
All right, cool. Rebecca Joe Steelman is from Southern California. Small scale grow of greens for myself and family, indoors and outdoors. Do you guys sell some of those extra strong, thick leaf kales, etc., to personal growers? I'm not sure what variety she's referring to,
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure either. She could give me a little more information.
okay. I
There,
don't know.
there is we sell Amara. It's an Ethiopian kale. That might be what she means. And we do sell that, and it is really heavy. It's very thick. It never gets a large leaf. It stays as a baby leaf. It doesn't have great heat tolerance, but they're very vigorous, and you see them a lot in bagged salad greens out of California because it's heavy, because it holds up really well in a bag, and it has a mild flavor. So it's looks like a kale, like sort of a rounded leaf kale, but it's a little milder flavored. So maybe that's what she means.
Okay. Yeah, I grew Amara in a kale mix last year. In the springtime, I did mixed it with a couple of other baby kales and made a cut like baby mix, and it was
Hmm.
amazing. As soon as the heat kicked in, though, the Amara grew way too fast and just bolted like super
Yeah,
quick.
it bolts.
But it's gorgeous in a mix, especially with other like kales or brazen greens or whatever. So yeah, that is a cool crop.
Yeah, you just make successive plantings of it. But yeah, it holds up very well once you cut it, which is
Cool,
nice.
cool. Gary CH80. What's the difference between treated and untreated seeds?
So treated seeds are treated with a fungicide. There's different fungicides that are used. The crops that are most often purchased treated would be squash, corn, beans. Why some growers choose to get treated seed would be to be able to get in the ground a little bit earlier while the soil is still colder than optimum, because that fungicide does protect the seed a bit. We have growers that will call in April, and it was in the 60s here until just about July 1st, July 4th. And, people are calling in April and saying, my corn seed is no good. And they were planting corn seed too early when it was 60s and wet. And so we always say, if you want to get in there early, you need to use treated seed. We do not recommend planting untreated seed till later, because that fungicide does protect the seed. So that's the difference. Treated seed are not approved for organic production. That fungicide, it's a chemical fungicide.
Okay, so it's just protecting the seed, but is there any do you see any like damage or any like influence of the soil or anything like that? I mean, I generally buy untreated seed, but
I can't really, yeah, I can't really answer to that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um so I guess you would know if you need a treated seed because you've had an issue in the past.
Yes, and if that is it's also a preference. If you're somebody that wants to grow organically, you're not going to be considering treated seed or chemically treated seed. There are some organic approved fungicides, and there's some new seed treatments that are organic,
Okay. And
which I
just to follow up on this question, like what about pelleted seeds? Like how are those made? What's the advantages, disadvantages, those sorts of things?
Yeah. So the pellet is put on smaller seed to make it easier to plant. So seed like lettuce and carrots, it's small, it's elongated. You put a pellet on it, it's really just a clay. You make it round, and so you can put it in your precision seeder. You can put it in a vacuum seeder for planting into trays. So it just makes it easier. You're taking a seed that might be a little difficult to plant because of the shape or size. You're making it round, you're making them all the same size. So that's the benefit. You have to be careful though with pelleted seed. One, they're typically primed before the pellet is put on, which means it gets it, ready to germinate, takes it out of that dormancy, put the pellet on so it's ready to go when you plant it. And so it just shortens the lifespan. So you really want to use that pelleted seed within a year. And you also have to keep pelleted seed uniformly moist because that seed has to be able to break through that pellet. So you need to dissolve that pellet. So that's one challenge that growers have sometimes planting pelleted lettuce seed in particular in trays is keeping that pellet moist enough and not too hot to be able to get that seed to poke through. So it's just ease of growing. And there are conventional pellets that have not been they have not been approved for organic production, and then there's certified organic pellets. So make sure if you're a certified grower that the pellet, or you let your seed company know that you're certified organic, and you make sure that you have certified organic pellets.
Okay, can you explain what priming is?
Not so much.
Okay.
I don't know the process so much, but it is to break that dormancy. It's to get that seed to the point where it's about ready to germinate, and then you throw the pellet over it.
Okay, so that explains why it doesn't last as long then. It's already sort of been started.
Yes, exactly. I just can't explain that they're using at the pellet they're using.
Cool. I mean, I've heard of priming seeds for people trying to grow like spinach in the summer. They'll soak the seeds and then dry them out and then put them in their seeder so they can direct seed it in the heat.
Yep, same idea.
All right, cool. I'm just so thankful that pelleted lettuce seeds exist because I cannot manipulate those. I don't know who can. Like I often get my kids to help me. I can't do it. I just can't do it. So that's a awesome thing. But yeah, it's true. I know that they do germinate fast, but you do have to be careful about the moisture. So cool. All right. Can you talk? Caitlin Singer says, "What's the deal with those one-cut lettuces?" I'm not sure what the question is there.
Caitlin.
Okay.
Caitlin was manager for a couple of years. Hi, Caitlin.
Do you want to answer a question, or is she just giving you a hard time?
I'm not sure if she's asking a serious question or not.
Okay.
Ask her to specify what she really means, or if she's just trying to give me a hard time.
All right. Well, if she's still listening, she'll have heard you. But
Okay.
All right. C and Star says, which vegetables do you see as better for direct planting versus starting in pots for home gardeners?
Oh, that's a great question. It's almost easier to answer the starting in pots. Anything that is going to take a long time to get to the point where it can really manage on its own. Something like a pepper, eggplant, tomato, always better to start inside. You need to think about what your weed pressure, what the competition is going to be, and how much that crop minds having its roots disturbed. Beets, carrots, spinach, great for direct seeding. Let me think. Squash, pumpkins, corn, all of that, you could go either way. You can start them, cucumbers, you can start them inside, or you can direct seed them. A lot of growers are using like a paper pot transplanter for beets, and even some trays for beets, but you need to be careful about disturbing the taproot. But something like carrot is not going to transplant well because you have a taproot that if that gets disturbed, you're not going to have a good carrot crop. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, something that you also need to manage the temperature of the soil very well to get that seed to grow, that plant to grow. Potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant need about 70 to 75 degrees to germinate, and that's really hard to do throwing a seed out in the field. So something that you want to manage very well, or you need to manage well to have good plants, is a crop that you'd want to start inside. You can do lettuce. You can direct seed baby leaf lettuce. Head lettuce is a little bit harder to direct seed and get a good crop because of weed pressure. Lettuce are very tiny, and the weeds typically grow faster than the lettuce grows. So transplanting lettuce is preferred. Something like kale could really go either way, but sometimes I think about it as how much management does that plant want, and how ready is my ground? If I can sort of micromanage that crop in a greenhouse, in a window, I can manage the temperature of the soil, manage the moisture that it's going to get. It might be a good candidate to start inside.
Cool. I know for me as a grower, it's mostly temperature because like when it's 95, I'm not going to get lettuce to grow in the ground. But the other thing is like timing too. Like if you're growing long-term stuff like peppers and tomatoes and eggplants and you want to get them out early in the season, like you probably want to start them inside to get them a head start so that you're not, you get them out a little bit earlier too. You get put up bigger plants. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are certain things I talk about.
You have more time to manage the spot that it's going into also to make sure the weeds are down. Spring is the hardest, anytime, especially in the Pacific Northwest, it's raining late into the season. You don't have a chance to get that ground, even if it's your home garden, get that ground, hoed up enough to get rid of the weeds before you're planting. So if you need a little bit more time to get the soil ready where you have, get the weeds out of there, you can start them inside. I often recommend to home gardeners. A lot of people call and talk about things like onions, peppers, eggplant, tomatoes, and they really just want a couple. And I almost always recommend going to your garden store, go to your co-op, go to a place you can buy some starts because they're not easy to grow. You have to get that soil temperature up pretty high, and if you just want a couple plants, you might be better off supporting your local nursery.
Yeah, the nursery work is a lot harder than people realize, and then hardening them off properly and all that stuff. So, agreed.
And light is challenging. Windowsill, it's hard to get a good strong plant with indirect light.
All right, cool. Hey, if you guys are watching this, please hit the like button. That would be awesome. Also, get a couple more questions in. That would be great. Weaver Acres, Brendan, good to see you in here, man. He says, may I get on the trial list for Southeast growers? I see a couple comments in here about like, if I'm interested, if I'm a commercial grower and I want to help out with some seed trials, like, are you looking for people? How do people get in touch with you about that? Like, how does that work?
So the seed trials, when we get new varieties from seed producers, we are responsible for our evaluation. So we can't just ship that like pre-commercial varieties or really brand new varieties out to growers. We have some trial partners, but we also typically need to be there and plant them and keep an eye on it. So there's a difference between when we've chosen a variety. I will send samples out. I'm always a little hesitant to say that, and everybody calls me asking for samples. But I do want to get it out on a number of farms. There's a difference between trialing varieties that are already available and our variety trials of varieties that are pre-commercial that we are partnering with the seed producer and the breeders. Those we do have some trial partners already. That's not to say that we couldn't use more. And we do have people around the country that help us with that, both product development and sales reps around the country that can help with that kind of in our larger network. You're always welcome to get in touch. I think trials are, not every great farmer is a great trialer or trial partner. It has to be done strategically, and you have to be realistic. I mean, every grower has too much on their hands always, and so when you want to trial new varieties, it's you have to be realistic about what you can actually manage. Can I manage this crop the same way I manage my the crops I typically market? So you can give me a call and we can have a conversation, and we can find out. It helps when I'm on the ground and I can see farms first, for a season, and to see what they're doing, what their farms look like, and to have a relationship with them to see if they're a trial partner.
That makes sense. I mean, you can't just be like, hey, try this out. Let me know what you think. And then it's like, I don't know how they're growing. I don't know. Yeah. And also, like, if you're doing...
We have a fairly comprehensive evaluation that we need to fill out for all the varieties that we send to the seed producers and the breeders. That's how they get their information as well.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's see here. Thomas is asking, oh, this is going to be a good question. How does Osborne optimize social media for their business? I know we've talked a lot about that. How's that going? How's the, do you want to talk on that a little bit?
We're still pretty new at this. We're working on it. Yeah, Josh has helped me a lot. I have my own social media, my Jericho Farmer, and that's been really fun. And I've had times where Osborne and myself personally, we've tried to get on. We try to get on it more often. This is still new. We're still learning. We'd love feedback. We'd love more interactions. It's really fun. The social media. I mean, food is when we're in the field, we want to take pictures and we want to send it, and we like sharing what we're doing. But we're learning and we're growing with this. But yeah, it's really fun. I have so many growers that are my personal and my business friends, and I love seeing them on Instagram. It's really fun. I feel like we all stay connected so well that way. But so how are we doing it? We're working on it. We're growing. If you have any suggestions, we'd love to hear them.
All right. Well, I'm happy to promote you guys as much as I can. So you guys have been great. I'd say come and visit again, but I don't know when that's going to happen. So
yeah.
Cool. Let's see here. Not too many more questions there. So Jesse had a question, and maybe I know that you guys sell a lot of chicory and a lot of like unique varieties. And I think I remember hearing, is it Evan Chandler of the Culinary Gardener? I don't know if you know him. He was saying that you guys sell some like obscure Italian, I think, varieties of chicory. Like, he talked a little about your chicories and I don't know, any sort of like varieties that stand out or blanching tips, like any of that kind of stuff. Like
the blanching tips, they're luckily there are people here that know a lot more than I'm learning the chicories. Chicories are like flowers to me. For a time there were people here that knew chicories really well, and I could always defer to them, but I find them so interesting, and so I'm learning. I can't answer to the blanching, but varieties, some of our staff have done such a good job of expanding our selection to have multiple varieties in different slots. So you have a Kyoja around Kyoja, and you have multiple varieties to plant spring and fall, and for a late into the winter. So I think I wish my coworker Linda was here to help me with this question. We did put the chicories in a table, the radicchio in a table. I should be more specific to help growers make choices, and we're having a lot of fun expanding the selection. And yes, we've got the beautiful Rosalba, the pink, and now we've got the oh my gosh, I think it's the Costa Rosa, the dark purple with the pink ribs. And yeah, we're going to keep expanding. We have a very large radicchio trial in that we put in around solstice, so we'll get our results in the fall. It's really fun seeing how much chicories have just taken off around the country. In places that is really challenging to grow radicchio, growers are trying, and they're giving us so much great information about timing. And so we're trying to have a good balance of all the types and open pollinated and hybrids.
Cool. Are there other? I mean, I had obviously heard that from the gentleman I just talked about, but are there other sort of types of plants that you guys specialize in, maybe more than some other companies, or?
Well, the chicories.
The chicories. Okay. All right.
Yeah, definitely the chicories. Spinach is really important to us. We have 3 to 4 trials a year. We have this high latitude bolt trial because we are at a high latitude, and it's a fantastic place to be observing spinach every year to look at bolt tolerance. We work with some fantastic spinach producers, and spinach is just so finding the right variety for the slot is really important, and with the disease resistance as well. So I think we're really committed to continually expanding our spinach selection, looking for that full. Right now it's 1 through 17 downy mildew resistance, and looking for varieties for different slots, making sure we have that summer slot, the hardest slot covered, and then varieties that can manage the transitions of spring into summer and summer into fall. So we just had a 54 variety trial, and we have another one going in pretty soon. So it's a lot of days spent evaluating spinach, and our product development manager, Tim, is out there every day checking for bolting and varieties and figuring out what day they're bolting. So it's it's interesting. It's pretty exciting to find that the best heat tolerant varieties are the ones that we already stock right now, the lizard and the lakeside. And I know that makes growers really happy because it's such a challenging crop in the summertime or when there's any heat. And it's just fantastic to have the varieties that are working. So.
Very cool. All right. Sea and Stars is asking, have you tried the North Georgia candy roaster?
No, but I was hearing about it when I was traveling. I was hearing about it in Texas and in North Carolina. So I haven't. I hear it's amazing.
Okay.
Have you?
I haven't. No, I heard of someone else growing candy roasters, but I know I haven't grown it. So, all right. Do you sell microgreen seed? Parker Bender's asking.
What was that?
Parker Bender is asking, do you sell microgreen seed?
Yes, we do. We have so a lot of the microgreens you'll find in other sections as well, but we did put together a microgreen section in the catalog that shows them at the appropriate size. On our website, it's a little bit trickier because items like a kale or a pak choi that we sell as microgreens and in the kale and pak choi section will have multiple pictures, but we don't have them all shown as a microgreen because it's the same item in two different places. So the best place to see them at the size of a microgreen is in our actual print catalog, and then we have a PDF online. But yes, we do have a microgreen section, and that's, when I look at the greens, I'm looking at them for microgreens, for baby leaf, 14, and bunch stage. So yeah, microgreens are really fun, and that's getting them out with growers, and I get lots of great feedback with them. I have a couple key trial partners, and I can love it, but they need to love it. It's more important. So yes, we have a microgreen section.
Cool. Ann Mefford is asking about the trialing and basically like, how is it the no-till versus tillage? Like, how do you guys do the same ground prep for everything that you're doing, or do you see any differences in how the ground is treated versus the crop trials? Like, how's that going? Is there research on that right now? Are you guys working on that?
We are working on that, but that's again having multiple trial partners that are using different methods. We can every grower is using different methods. Their ground is different. Their irrigation methods are different, and so that's why it's really important to get new varieties in particular out on a lot of different farms using different methods. So no, in our field, we're using a tractor, we're using a rototiller.
Have you gotten feedback yet about sort of no-till farming versus tillage and sort of different varieties or different types of crops that are working better or worse, or has that not sort of been aggregated yet? Or
I have not. I mean, I would be very happy to hear, but I have not in particular, no.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions about that for sure. And I think a lot of the no-till people are sort of like, wouldn't that be cool if the seeds were grown in the same environment that we're planting it in?
Yes.
So I don't know if that's even being discussed amongst like seed providers right now.
Yeah. I haven't heard that conversation. I would be interested to hear that conversation, and I know that there's information online, and I could tap into that. There's great community, so I think a lot of it is coming from the growers, the conversations.
All right, cool. All right, so question coming from me now. So it's tomato time. What are a couple tomatoes that are blowing your mind this year? What a couple varieties?
So when you say this year, it's funny because we're so far behind you that I can't answer.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I wish I could say that. I am excited about we've been working with Enza Vitalis for some years with some greenhouse. They're heirloom type for high tunnels, and they're just fantastic flavor and color. So I'm excited to be looking at those, and we'll be releasing those pretty soon. They'll be available this year. A lot, there's varieties that have late blight resistance now and good flavor, which is pretty exciting. Disease resistance, especially where you've got high humidity, is pretty important in the field and in the tunnels. Yeah, I wish I could answer that. I can't wait until tomato season. I think we had one tomato turn orange, but everything is green.
Sorry, I forget that, like, it's not the same weather everywhere sometimes. I'm like, yeah, we're deep into
Yeah.
tomatoes already. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, I'll keep that in mind next time yeah, okay.
Had
So,
I been traveling this year, I could have been able to answer that, but
okay. Um, so get a couple more questions in. We're just over an hour in. So if you have a couple questions, let's get them in now. Noah Kashmir is saying, do you specialize in seeds for a specific climate or area of the country?
we are really looking at this point at the whole country. We've been in business for 35, 6, 7 years, and we were really focused on the Pacific Northwest. But when you have a website, you start, growers find you from all over the country. So it's really important for us to be looking for varieties, that are working in the Southeast, working in the Northeast, and, Eastern Canada. We sell to the US and Canada. That's where our seed goes. And yes, we're looking for adaptable varieties. We try to be careful with the language of our in our descriptions, to help guide growers. But a lot of this is new with new varieties. We really need to get them out. We need to try them in fields. We need growers to give them a try, so we can know where they really work well. But no, we're looking for varieties that are working all over the U.S. and Canada.
Very cool. All right. Anything else you want to add to the discussion tonight, Rebecca? Anything that you want to, like, that's coming up to promote, or just tell people to go on your website and buy some stuff or get a catalog?
Well, one thing that I'm concerned about or disappointed is that I typically spend my winters at conferences. So last winter, I think I went to 8 conferences in just a couple months, and so I'm not going to have those face-to-face conversations that I really love. And so we want and need to be able to continue conversations. So any way that can happen. So reach out, give me a call, send us an email. We really thrive and learn and grow from those conversations. So we need to find ways to be able to do that. A lot of conferences are going to be virtual this year, and that works. For listening to a speaker, but you don't have that interaction. So how are we gonna make that up?
Right. I mean, if you've been to any sort of professional conference in any field, usually the best things are all the conversations with people, not necessarily the presentation. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I always go to one or two amazing sessions where I learn a lot, but it's really the conversations that I have with other seed companies, with growers. So
awesome.
I'm going to miss it this year.
Yeah. All right. So try to keep in touch. I guess that's what we all got to
Yeah,
do.
keep in touch.
Okay. Rebecca, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today and answering questions, and all the work that you do
Thanks
is
for
much
having me.
appreciated. I know as a grower, I always think everyone on the seed side of it, I mean, we couldn't do it without you guys, and we thank you. So,
And we feel the same way. Thank you.
all right.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll do it again, Rebecca. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, big thanks to Rebecca for tonight, and hopefully you guys got some good questions answered. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Remember, every Tuesday evening, every other Tuesday, sorry, at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back on August 4th with Honey Tree Farm. So, guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Take care.